The torrential rain poured down as if it were spilling from a gaping wound torn open in the sky. The night was as dark as ink, and the city's neon lights blurred into a kaleidoscope of colors by the downpour. My body hit the ground like a rag doll, my fingers weakly clutching at the puddle-covered cement, while muddy water slipped through them. I felt the sharp pain of broken ribs, but what hurt even more was the deep helplessness and despair weighing down my heart. Xia Chen. A familiar voice reached my ears, cold and contemptuous, like the final line on a death sentence. I struggled to lift my head and saw Yi Qiu standing in the curtain of rain. He was still tall and imposing, his black trench coat billowing like the wings of a crow. His face, under the dim streetlight, appeared stern and aloof, and there was not a trace of pity in his indifferent eyes. We had once fought side by side as brothers, and I believed our bond was stronger than anything in this world. But as he stood before me now, I realized that this so-called bond was nothing more than my wishful thinking. Yi Qiu slowly approached, his heels striking the ground with a crisp echo. He looked down at me from above, his voice as sharp and cold as a blade. "Do you find it laughable?" he sneered. "You've exhausted everything for a goal that was never yours, only to end up like this." I wanted to retort, but my throat felt blocked, and no words came out. My mind was a chaotic mess, and my body felt as heavy as lead. I once thought that if I trained hard enough, I could one day stand beside him, as his equal. But the truth was, no matter how hard I tried, I could never reach the power of the demon spirits. Yi Qiu crouched beside me, his hand reaching out to gently pat my face, as if mocking my pathetic stupidity. His fingers were ice cold, just like the endless rain-soaked night. An 8th-level warrior? His lips curled into a mocking smile. "Xia Chen, this world never belonged to the weak." I glared at him with anger, but the fire inside me couldn't ignite. There was only a deep sense of powerlessness. Demon spirits, that was his trump card, the insurmountable chasm between us. In my previous life, I had already lost to that power. So, is this the end? I managed to croak, my voice hoarse with weakness. Yi Qiu laughed, a chilling smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Of course it's the end." He pulled a demon spirit orb from his coat. The orb gleamed eerily under the rain, casting an ominous glow. "But don't worry, your efforts won't be in vain. I'll remember your foolishness." As soon as he finished speaking, a blinding black light erupted from the orb, snaking toward him like a venomous serpent. It slithered into his body, and his eyes immediately darkened, becoming deep and pitch black, as if his very soul had been consumed. The nightmare demon spirit, one of the most dangerous beings in the 5 realms, had now fully merged with Yi Qiu. I could feel my consciousness slipping away, my heartbeat slowing, and my body becoming as light as air. The world before me blurred, leaving only Yi Qiu's face, haunting me like a specter in a nightmare. The sound of the rain disappeared, as if an invisible force had driven it away. I jolted awake, my eyes snapping open in the darkness. Before me was a familiar bedroom, white ceiling, an old desk, and a cluttered training schedule pinned to the wall. It was as if time had rewound to many years ago. I sat up abruptly, my heart pounding like a drum. My fingers touched the familiar edge of the bed, the rough wood grounding me in reality. This wasn't a dream. I looked around, everything was real. This is, when I was 13? Outside, the sky was just beginning to lighten, the first hint of dawn spilling through the cracks in the curtains. I looked down at my hands, young, 13-year-old hands, smooth and uncalloused. I'd been reborn. The moment I realized this, my heart felt like it had been struck by something hard. All the humiliation and despair from my previous life rushed back to me. But this time, instead of the familiar helplessness, I was filled with an unprecedented sense of hope and determination. "Yi Qiu," I murmured his name, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. This time, I would never allow myself to be that trampled, weak person again. The nightmare demon spirit, I would take it from him with my own hands, and become truly powerful. I quickly got out of bed, rummaging through my wardrobe for a clean set of workout clothes. In the mirror, the reflection of my young face carried a hint of coldness I had never seen before. The face was still young, but the soul inside had experienced far too much. From now on, everything will be different. I stood by the window, watching as the city slowly awoke. In my previous life, I had wasted too much time on meaningless things. This time, I would prepare in advance, lay out my plans, and seize true power before Yi Qiu could. The entrance exam for the Demon Spirit Academy is 2 months away. My mind raced as I quickly calculated the timeline. In my previous life, I had missed that exam and had to scrape by in a second-rate martial arts academy. This time, I wouldn't let that regret happen again. Resolute, I pulled out my phone and brought up the information I knew all too well from my previous life. The rumors of the Nightmare Demon Spirit and the Academy's admissions plan appeared before me once again. I swiftly drew up a detailed plan, arranging every step with precision. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. Outside, my mother's gentle voice called out, "Xia Chen, are you up? Breakfast is ready." Hearing that familiar voice, I froze, a wave of warmth rushing through me. In my previous life, I had missed so much time with her. This time, I wouldn't allow myself to leave any regrets. "I'll be right there," I called back, a faint smile tugging at my lips. The world after the rain was still beautiful, but the path of my life had completely changed.